All right. Hello, everybody out there. Hello, everybody out there. Hello, everybody out there. And yeah, welcome to This Week in Space. We're going to be talking all about the transits that are going down this week, including the new moon in Pisces, which is going to round everything off on what is that, Sunday? Yeah, Sunday, March the 10th. So we've got a bunch of stuff going on in the celestial spheres this week. A lot of exciting action happening. What's up? What's up? And yeah, it's going to be exciting. It's going to be electrifying. It's going to be what it's going to be, and a lot of it is what we make of it. And that is sort of why I like to do this weekly program, to help us kind of prepare and understand the archetypes that are at play in the celestial realms, so we are better prepared to approach these things in a conscious way. So we are not taken off guard by what's happening, by what comes up. And one of the ways that I think about astrology is that the planets don't make things happen, right? I think that we are kind of co-creating the web of existence with everything that's happening in this holographic universe, right? So what is happening in our gut biome, right? What is happening on a cellular level? What is happening at a community level? What is happening at a global level? And what is happening at a planetary level are all happening simultaneously in relationship with each other, right? And that they're all kind of affecting each other, and they're all kind of pushing and pulling on us in their own ways. And the idea, I guess, at least in my mind, is to be conscious of the influences that we are kind of dealing with, and to be consciously participating with all of these things, so that we are not just like tossed around. And when inevitably we are tossed around, right, because we are just individuals living in this big, weird world, that are contending with forces that are much more powerful than us, when we are being tossed around by these forces, we have some agency to sit back, reflect, ideally, and be like, okay, what is the best course of action for me, or for my family, or for the planet, or for the planetary energies, right? And so that we are not responding in unconscious ways, but we are responding in more conscious ways and more thought out ways. And I think that astrology can be incredibly helpful for this, because it gives us kind of a set of archetypes that are playing out in the heavens, right? That are also playing out in our inner world, in the sort of macrocosm to the microcosm. And as we understand the external archetypes and how they're playing out, we can also reflect on, okay, like, how is my internal Mars doing here, right? How is my desire for action showing up in this moment, and what can I do to sort of channel this in a way that is skillful, instead of being kind of thrown about by it. So that is my kind of little preamble here, sort of how I think about this weekly program, and sort of a snippet of what I'm trying to bring on a weekly basis. And for those of y'all who are just tuning in, I do this every week on the AstroStar Live app, which is a great place to get all the astrology that you need. Also, it's a great astrological community, and there are some top-notch astrologers that are dropping knowledge on a regular basis on AstroStar, and it is a free download. You can go to wherever you get your apps at and check out the AstroStar Live app. I'm an advisor there, and I do astrology readings through AstroStar. There's also Sam Reynolds and Moses Sirigar and Cameron Allen and a bunch of other amazing astrologers, Michael Bartlett, who are all advisors on that app, and they do talks on specific subjects. I do this weekly talk every single Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, making that 10 a.m. Pacific Time and 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So yeah, be sure to tune into that. And then sometimes I do it on Instagram as well. What's up, Instagram? And maybe I'll start doing it on YouTube. So what's up, YouTube? And yeah, I am just surrounded by Apple products and pictures of my own face, which is kind of an interesting way to start the week, but hey, we're here. And so, without further ado, let's get into the astrology, shall we? Let me just check the comments, make sure nothing's going down. Okay. And yeah, feel free to chime in as I kind of go through my rant and my monologue. Oh, also, I just want to put out there that one of the people who tunes in regularly on AstroStar, Gina Maria, is going out for an interview today, a job interview. So everyone, cross your fingers for Gina Maria and wish her well. I hope you get the job, or I hope that this job is really great and they love you. So just wanted to toss that out into the tubes of the internet. Because one of the things that we're talking about this week, as we move into the new moon, is setting intention, right? And thinking about what this next cycle might look like. And we are in the waning phase, which is sort of like releasing old things. And Pisces is a sign of surrender, where we are letting things go and preparing the way for the new cycle, preparing the way for Aries season, where new things sort of emerge, right? And we are kind of letting go of what is old, what no longer serves us, what we can surrender back into the kind of compost heap of the cycle, to prepare the grounds for the new growth to take place. But we'll get to that kind of towards the end of the week with the new moon. But that's just something to be thinking about in this week is, what are we willing to surrender? What are we letting go of? What can we compost? What no longer serves us, right? What are we hanging on to that can be returned? Because I think Pisces is a sign of the collective unconscious. And as we like make this trip through the zodiac, right? As we make this whole collective cycle around the zodiac, which we are doing together, right? We're all in this together, my friends. As we are making this cycle around, coming towards Aries season, which is the astrological new year at the spring equinox. Right. Pisces is the place where all of the stuff that we have collected, all of the wisdom, all of the objects, all of the trinkets, all of the nifty little things that we have collected through this journey around the sun, right? We are now looking at and being like, okay, like, time to give this back. I don't own any of this. None of this belongs to me, right? I am borrowing all of this from the infinite, right? The ineffable, right? And so this is the time that we are kind of returning everything that we have collected back into the sort of void, or the collective unconscious, or the however you want to perceive that, the cosmic compost heap, right? This is when we are letting go of everything, to make space for what is new to emerge. All right. So saying all that, Monday, March 4th, which I believe is today. Happy March, everybody. We have Mercury in Pisces sextile Uranus in Taurus at 19 degrees and 42 minutes. So Mercury, the messenger, our sort of cognitive intelligence, right? Our frontal cortex, the way that we process information coming in. Uranus, who is the wild one, right? Who is the planet of liberation, of breakdown, of breakthrough. Very electrical, and in some kind of like a esoteric or evolutionary sense, they think about Uranus as the higher vibration of Mercury, right? So Mercury is kind of how we are dealing with information, right? And Uranus is maybe like the source of the information, right? This big kind of electrical source, this electrical storm of information that is being kind of downloaded to us, right? And Mercury is that part of us that is processing that. And it's kind of like, how much can we handle is, I think, a really interesting question when we get a relationship between Mercury and Uranus, right? How big a download can your system handle, right? Are you just going to get the spinning wheel of death, right? Which, like, sometimes that's okay, right? But I think Mercury in Pisces, where Mercury is in their detriment, right? Because they're sort of in this foggy space where things are not clear. The boundaries are kind of dissolved. It's sort of like groping around in this dream state, where Mercury likes clarity, like sharpness, likes data, likes things that they can be like, okay, this is this, right? And I can store and file, right? And I can think about it in this way. In Pisces, it's all just sort of everything is everything. But I think that the sextile with Uranus is like bringing in this kind of electrical information, this clear sharpness, this maybe like intuitive and creative information, right? Coming out of that dream vision of Pisces. And I think this is a great time to tune into our personal creativity, right? Into what inspires us. I also like to think about Uranus as like the genius, right? And stop me if you've heard this before, but no one is a genius, right? I am not a genius. You are not a genius. Albert Einstein is not a genius. No one is a genius. There's never been a human genius that has ever lived because the genius is like a muse, right? It is an entity. It is a spirit that comes in and goes where it is welcome. Right. It hangs out where the conditions are right for it to be, much like the muse, much like creativity, right? We are just vessels for this energy to come and sit with us and inspire us. And Uranus is this kind of energy, this genius energy that comes to where it is welcome. And I think that Mercury is helping to sort of like mediate that information that is coming from that genius angel or, spirit, however you want to conceptualize that. And so I think Mercury helps to sort of mediate and connect that and to sort of bring that inspiration or that sense of genius into our processing system. And so one of the things that we can think about today, right, this week, because today is kicking off this week, is like, what are the spaces that we're able to open up, right, for that genius to arise, for inspiration to arise? Pisces is also super creative, being connected to the collective unconscious and to the kind of visionary parts of the self, right? To the visionary parts of the universe, and being able to tune into that Piscean energy and that creative energy, right? And again, Mercury is like what is the messenger. They make these messages conscious to us. And so what is it like to create the conditions for inspiration to arise? What is it like to create the conditions for the genius to come and hang out? you know and if we're busy all the time, right, running around hustling, maybe that's how you get your information. Maybe that's how like you get inspired. For me, it's like taking a shower, right? I sit in the shower, I zone out, I have these thoughts, and I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to talk about today. Right? This is yeah, I'm gonna let you into the secret on how I prepare for this every week. I just take a shower and like stare into space. Right. But I think that this brings up like, what are the ways in which you are able to tap into your creative potential and your personal genius? Right. And I think that this is really important. And today is a great day, right, for tuning into that inspiration and making the space, right, so that the messenger can arise and arrive with whatever information, that electrical breakthrough energy. Yeah, hydromancy. Excellent. Yes. Um, right. A great day for creating the space so that the messenger can bring the kind of inspiring information from Uranus, right? A sextile is kind of a weaker aspect, which I think is helpful, and also it is a supportive aspect. It's a communicative aspect, so information can flow freely from the sort of electrical storm of the cosmos into our electrical storm of our human brains. Um, because our Mercury deals with our nervous system and Uranus is like high electrical energy. It's a good day to sort of make sure that you're taking care of your nervous system, right? Maybe like not too much caffeine, just enough. Or taking soothing herbs or just giving time to like breathe and down regulate. I think this is really important anytime that we have Mercury and Uranus in relationship with each other. Also, there can be like overstimulation and like too much information. So I just wanted to put that out there. So like knowing what is right for you, right? You know, because it can be really exciting and electrical, like when we're like all creative and inspired. And you know, Mercury moves quick, so this is not going to last for a long time, which I think can be helpful because being in that kind of frenetic state can burn us out really quickly. And I'm saying that from experience. Um, the other couple things that I wanted to say about this is that Mercury rules over the crossroads, right? And crossroads are choices in life. That's one way of looking at them. And I think that Uranus, which is this kind of planet that is seeking liberation and breakthrough, brings us to these crossroads and is like, yo, you got to go this way, right? So, what is the space that we're able to open up to listen to these kind of intuitive messages that maybe are not bound to logic, but are telling us, okay, like in the crossroads, which is like every choice that we are making, we are going down a crossroads and we're creating a reality with these choices, right? And what is it like to sort of honor the gods of the crossroads when we have a choice to make, right? And this could be like, do I get a vegetarian sandwich or do I get a roast beef sandwich, right? That is a crossroads right there. And it can also be like, do I go to school or do I go to a foreign country, right? That's a much bigger crossroads. But to like take time to pause at whatever that crossroads, whatever that choice is, and to wait for that kind of intuitive information that comes from the Uranian energy of liberation, right? And to think about what is that choice that brings me closer to my authentic self, right? And I think that each choice that we make can bring us closer to our authentic selves. And this is going to mean something different for everybody, but is an interesting framework to think about this through, you know, and to get to know our authentic selves through the choices that we make and tuning in to being like, okay, what do I really feel? What do I feel in this moment, right? Making that choice, experiencing it, and checking back in. How did that make me feel, right? And this is how we gather information and sort of build on that data set to be able to move forward in more and more authentic ways. Good morning, Lynn. Nice to see you. Happy Monday. Okay, speaking of just the right amount of caffeine, I'm going to open my energy beverage and we're going to press on till to Wednesday, March the 6th. Okay, so on Wednesday, we have Mars in Aquarius sextiling Chiron in Aries. This is going down at 17 degrees and 32 arc minutes. So again, a sextile is a communicative aspect, and it is one of the weaker aspects, but that's not a problem, right? It's just nice. Sometimes it's just nice to be seen. Mars is the ruler of Aries, where Chiron has been residing for quite some time now. Um, and I think that this aspect, right, helps. How do I want to say this? Mars is like action, Mars is energy, Mars is anger and appetite, right? And in a supportive aspect to Chiron, I think that this can be really helpful because Chiron, the archetype of the wounded healer, who has sort of been struck by Hercules's uh, poisoned arrow and is crawling back into their cave and is suffering and wallowing, right? And I don't know if anyone has ever had this experience where like something happens, you stub your toe, something doesn't go right. We have kind of like old memories that are activated and we feel triggered, and then we just like go to a place and wallow, right? For me, this is watching like multiple hours of some like trashy police procedural, right? That's how I do my like Chiron wallowing. That is my Chiron cave right there. You know, Law and Order, Dung Dung is a great one for me, right? But you know, I think that we all have the ways that we wallow, that we like experience our suffering. You know, some of it's in the bar, right? It can be shopping, it can be, you know, TV, any way that we can like sit there and like suffer. And I think Mars is like, what do you think you're doing? Get up, get angry, right? Where's your fight? And I think Mars is really like in this aspect on Wednesday, Mars is being like, yo, get up, get angry, right? Mars is saying, kindle a fire, light a fire, right? Burn something, right? Break something if you need to, but like get out of like your Chiron cave, get out of like whatever that wallowing situation is, and like do something, take an action. And Mars is like, I don't even care what action, just take any action. And I think that this can be really helpful when we are in the state of self-pity, when we are in a state of just wallowing in suffering, right? Where we're repeating the story over and over again. Oh my God, I stubbed my toe. I hate that stupid cabinet that I stubbed my toe on, right? Well, it's so unfair. And Mars is like, shut up, right? Go do something, right? Like transmute this energy. And that's what Chiron is really about, is the transmutation of suffering into healing and suffering into teaching. And so I think that in order to do that, we need some like energy moving through the system. We got to like get fired up, right? And I see Chiron as a real alchemical process. Um, Oh yeah, somebody says they say do motion in medicinal where trauma is involved, right? Yeah, because things like tend to like tense up and like tense around whatever place has been wounded, right? And constrict and I think movement and like being able to bring some life into systems, bring blood to these places, and I think this happens on a psychological level as well, right? Being able to like get things flowing. And I think that the like heat, right, that Mars creates or wants to create, sort of boils the alchemical pot, right, which is allowing that kind of suffering to transmute, to change, to metamorphosize into something else. And ideally, Chiron takes their suffering, right, their core wounding, and they're like, okay, I've made it through working on it, right, through working on myself, through learning, through growing, through practicing the healing arts. This is all action steps, right? I've been able to learn a bunch of stuff that now I can teach other people, right? So like passing that fire along. And one of the ways that I think about this, okay, I'll tell a story. Yeah, whatever. I'll tell this story. So a long time ago, when I was living in New York City, a friend of mine who I have not seen in many, many years, oh yeah, Qigong, right, is a great way of sort of like moving that qi through, right? And moving through those blocked up places, right, where again trauma happens and we get stuck. But yeah, I'm going to tell this story. So a friend of mine years ago in New York, she was talking about like the energy that we kind of send out that is never returned, right? The energy that we send out to those who have passed on, right? To those relationships that no longer work or function, right? And she was like, I'm constantly like sending out this sort of like echolocation, right? Or this energy towards these people who are no longer there, who no longer return it. And it's like really draining. Right. And she was like, it really like depressed me for a long time. And I think this is that state of Chiron, is like, oh, that person is gone, right? I've lost that person. That thing isn't there. There's nothing to reflect that back, right? So I'm just sending out all of this energy that never comes back to me. And now I'm depleted. And now I'm in my cave and like suffering over it. And she was like, what I learned to do was to think about this like fire that I hold in my soul, in my belly, in my chest, right? And every day, she said, I would wake up and check in and see, how's this fire doing today? Right. She was like, some days it was like nice and, robust, and other days it was pretty pithy. And she would do this sort of visualization of going and collecting firewood and bringing it, right, and feeding this fire, and she would do this as she's having her coffee or getting on the bus, and going to work. And other days, it was a raging inferno, and she was like, I had to like visualize getting a bucket of water and like making sure it didn't like rage out of control. And I've always loved this, and I think about this maybe weekly. Right. And this is something, as I was preparing for this, that I was thinking about as well. Right. I think this Mars in relationship to Chiron is like, how are we tending this fire? Right. How, and I think in the suffering, the fire gets cold. And we're like, I can't go and get wood for it. It's too much. Oh, why me? And I think Mars is like, no, get up. Come on, let's go get some firewood. Come on, bro. Like it's fire time. And so I just wanted to offer that to you and to think about, as we move through this week, right, as we move through these intense times where there's maybe a lot of energy going out and maybe not so much coming back in, what is it like to sort of tend to our own fires, right, and to move through the world thinking about like, oh, how is my fire doing, right? What do I need to do to tend this? Ooh, yeah. Thank you, Emily. It's really nice to see you here. I'm glad that you're here, and I hope you got that Law and Order reference. Um, yeah, yeah, suffering is being frozen. Love this is another comment that came in. Yeah, and like suffering and trauma are like frozen things. Trauma is a moment that is frozen in time in our brains, right? Um, it's really nice to see you. I love you. Um, so, okay, moving right along because we've got a couple things to go over this week. Oh, I'll just finish that last thought. Sorry, I'm jumping all around. Yeah, trauma. I see trauma as a moment that is really like frozen in time, right? That has no beginning, middle, or end, and it's just like this frozen sensation. Oh, thank you. Um, we should hang out soon. I really want to get a tattoo from you. But yeah, trauma is this moment that is sort of frozen in time and we get frozen in it. And I did this talk for Esar on Chiron in the North Node. I also did it for AstroStar. I don't know if it's archived anywhere. But one of the things that I talk about is like trauma as like something that is hyper vigilant, that is frozen, that never sleeps. And to think about what are the ways that we can soften this thing that is like so like tensed, waiting for something bad to happen, right? And I think a lot of the work that Chiron does is learning to like soothe and ease these parts, right? And I think the whole planetary system around trauma is learning to create safety. And I think that this is a lot of what trauma work is learning to create safety and teach these parts of ourselves that feel really unsafe, that like safety can exist, and to really foster that and show these things to ourselves and let them know. Okay, so moving right along, Friday, March the 8th, we have Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune at 27 degrees and 1 arc minute. So again, Mercury, not feeling the greatest in Pisces. It's sort of like lost in the fog and wandering, groping aimlessly, just trying to make sense of kind of all of the information. And again, Pisces is the sign of the collective unconscious, right? And Mercury, who is kind of just a little sponge for information, is maybe picking up way too much, right? The collective vibe is a lot in the sensitivity of Pisces. Um, and so, what did I say about this? Okay, right. But in this kind of collective unconscious, in this soup of all of our thoughts and feelings and emotions, Mercury, I think, is really able to kind of tune in to the unseen world, into the unconscious realms, and into that collective unconscious, and to pull things out of it. And I think this can be really beneficial. Um, yeah, Mary C is talking about the collective groping of maybe all of us, but also this is, how we process information is Mercury, right? So Mercury in Pisces is this sort of like wandering through, being like, what is this? What does this mean? And I think that one of the things that is important with Mercury in Pisces is to let go of meaning, right? And just be in feeling. And I think that Pisces gives us a lot of emotional information. And Mercury is like, okay, I need to categorize this. I need to say what this is. I need to like, put it in a box, mark labeled this thing. And Pisces sort of defies that because Pisces melts, and Neptune especially. Neptune is dissolving, especially around boundaries, right? So every box that Mercury is like, this is a thing, Neptune is like, whoosh, that is no longer a box, right? Now this is soup. And we just have to be swimming in this soup, and that can be okay because Neptune is also, creative energy. Neptune is inspiration. And I think that, again, this is the kind of inspiration from the beyond. Neptune is an outer planet, right? So we are looking at the collective unconscious and the big sort of unconscious, right? The unconscious soup that we are all swimming in. And Mercury is able to sort of pull information out of this. But I think it's important to be like, is this mine, right? Is this something that I need to be holding? Is this something that I want to hold? I think the best way of showing up for this is creatively, I think that this can be incredibly inspiring to sort of have uh, you know, I want to say creative information, but I think it's like processing the information in creative ways, coming up with like really creative out of the box ideas, right? Being able to sort of channel the creative energy of the universe is a way that I'll say it. Maybe that's a little like big, but I think that there is an opportunity to really tune into the sort of Neptunian intergalactic, right? Everything is all one energy and process that in a way that like we can touch. Right. And we can do something with. And I think that art is a great way of doing this, or writing, or automatic writing, or dance. Right. And just allowing the space to be moved by that energy. On the flip side, Neptune is connected to deception, right? And this deception might be unintentional, right? People are not necessarily like out there trying to deceive you, but Neptune is deceptive. Things are not necessarily what they seem right now. And this is Friday, March the 8th, right? So this is a good time to sort of like double check, right? What's going on. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. And Neptune is like, oh yeah, like all these things and all this thing and this other thing, right? And I don't know if that's actually going to be the case. So I think that there is a discerning quality that we can bring in when people are like blowing a lot of smoke. And I think Neptune blows a lot of smoke, right? And makes a lot of promises and says what we want to hear, and does the things that it want, like thinks that we want, right? But the reality of that situation might be a little different. And so I think we can bring in the Mercury power of discernment and really like trying to sort through what's going on. And I would leave a little space after Friday to make big decisions if there are things that are promised to you this week or towards the end of the week. Um, so let me just make sure that I got everything. Oh yeah, Mercury and Neptune is also searching for higher meaning, right? And yeah, again, getting information and downloads from our imagination and creativity. This is a great time to daydream, right? To fantasize, to lay around and think about possibilities, to sort of set intention or like receive kind of information from the imaginal realms and start like maybe building intentions that we are wanting to set with the new moon, which is coming up a couple days later on Sunday. Right. And this is like time for intuitive sensitivity, right? Which can also feel overwhelming, right? Because Neptune can feel a lot, and Neptune can be the kind of victim, martyr, or redeemer archetype, right? So it can be Mercury conjunct Neptune can be like, oh my God, I'm feeling all these feelings and it's too much for me. Right. And we can go back into that collapse that Mars just helped us get out of a couple days before. So really take care of yourself this week and towards the end of the week, because I think that there's like some information overload and emotional overload that is possible. And I think that there's a lot going on in the collective, a lot of sorrow, a lot of grief, a lot of war, a lot of tragedy. And it's, it permeates kind of all aspects of life, right? Even if you're not tuned into the news, even if you're not paying attention to what's happening, I think that it creates a vibe through the collective, especially in Pisces season, especially with a Mercury conjunction to Neptune. I think that we're all kind of like receiving this information on a intuitive and emotional, even like at some level somatic level, right? And it can be overwhelming. And being overwhelmed, is that is a state that we go through, but we want to kind of like be in that window of tolerance where we can be effective, right? And even if we're not able to like solve the problems of the world, we can still be like kind and compassionate and caring to the people in our immediate sphere. And when we find ourselves being overwhelmed or taken out of that window of tolerance, it becomes a lot harder to support other people, right? Not saying that anyone needs to support everybody else. What's up, Jeff? Nice to see you. Welcome. Not saying that anyone needs to support anybody else all the time, right? And like we all get to sort of follow our wave of, I'm on top, I'm able to like do things for other people, and I'm at the bottom and I'm just like curled up watching Law and Order, right? And we all follow these cycles. But I think being really in tune with like where we're at and the kind of level of emotional information we're taking in, how we process that, how we metabolize that, right? Whether we're able to talk about that in community, whether we're able to write about that, how we like sort of work that through our body so we're not just like holding on to the sorrow and grief and suffering of the world, because that is a Neptunian thing right there. Neptune is like, oh, it's this like ocean of sorrow at times, right? And so how can we like take a drop of that and hold a drop of that, and what can we do with that? And again, how do we transmute that? Right? How do we turn the poison the poison of the sandworm into the water of life? I don't know if any of y'all seen Dune yet, but I don't know, it seemed very poignant. So I just wanted to drop that in there. Anyway, moving right along, Saturday, March the 9th, we have Mars in Aquarius squaring off with Uranus in Taurus. Okay. So welcoming Mars back to the stage. And again, Uranus is the planet of breakdown, breakthrough, revolution, liberation, and a square is a hard aspect. So we have Mars, which is like our action, right? Like wanting to like do something, wanting to fight it out, and Uranus wanting to blow stuff up, right? Create a revolution, wanting liberation. And these things are in a tense aspect. And one of the things that happens in a tense aspect between Mars and Uranus is eruption, is explosion. Think about this very much as like dynamite, right? Uranus being the dynamite and Mars being like lighting the fuse. It's like fire and gasoline. And one of the things that I think happens with this relationship is like any like repressed emotion, right? Repressed feelings, repressed ideas, things that are not finding a way to the surface. Uranus wants to like dig up, wants to blow up, wants to liberate. And Mars is the agent of change in this way. Mars is the action that creates the space for that liberation to occur, for this like pent up stress to make its way out. And again, we want to do this in a conscious way. So, say you are feeling upset about the state of the world coming off of this Mercury conjunct Neptune, right? And this all of the sorrow is like pent up, and then you see somebody who activates this, right? Or somebody says something at your job or on the street, and it just explodes on them. And they are not the person who deserves it necessarily, right? But that energy needs a place to go because it hasn't been processed. And so, what we want to watch out for is like not inflicting pain on other people, unsuspecting civilians who don't deserve it, right? We want to figure out ways of processing this in a healthy way. Or the other way that this happens is it turns in on ourselves, right? And we just like stab ourselves over and over, being like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I can't do enough, right? Oh, I did this thing in seventh grade, right? Oh my God, I like messed that thing up, right? And we can turn that energy on ourselves. What I think is important is like having skillful action to release this energy, which we also get with the sun in Pisces sextiling Uranus in the same day. Um, and I will get back to that in a second because I want to tell a story about Mars. I think I got time for this, right? You guys got time for a story, right? So one of the ways that I'm thinking about this is the story. It's a How do I want to say this? Okay. One of the ways that I'm thinking about this is through an ancient Mesopotamian Sumerian myth about Era, who is the Mesopotamian version of Mars. Era is the god of fire, plague, war, and they get syncretized with Nergal, who is an underworld deity, and they become sort of like a one deity as time goes on, which we now know as Mars. But in one of the stories in the Wrath of Era, uh Era is bored, right? Like I don't have shit to do, but you know what? I'm gonna go sack Babylon. Why not? Right? And Basically they go and they trick Marduk, who is the protector of Babylon, into leaving, and then they go and they kill everybody. Right. And they create like a lot of chaos and havoc that the gods then all need to like form a council about and sort of mediate and like calm that situation down. But this is all started by Hera being like, ain't nothing happening here, and I'm bored. There's nothing good on Netflix. Fuck it, I'm gonna go sack Babylon. Right. And I make light of this because it's an ancient myth, but I think that this is the Uranus Mars energy. Mars being like, I'm bored, right? And Uranus is like, do something, right? Smash something, break something. Like, let's get live, right? Let's change things up. Let's release this pent up energy, this energy of boredom, right? And so, Mars era is just like, cool, I'm gonna go like kill something, right? And so when Mars gets bored, right, they get violent, they break things. And when Mars gets activated, Mars breaks things, right? So I just bring this in because this is something that we want to be conscious of, right? Another way that that story is told, or another way that I've heard it, is that Era, as a like spirit, goes and inspires the oppressed people in Babylon to start a revolution, and they start a very bloody kind of reign of terror, French Revolution style overthrow of the powers that existed there. Right. So this is another way that Uranus and Mars kind of show up, is this the inspiration towards revolution. But this is can also be like really destructive. And so again, right, to think about what are the ways that we can release energy in skillful, helpful ways, right? Mars likes athletics, right? Exercise is great, sex is great, as long as it's consensual, right? Like creativity, things that are moving the body. Qigong is something that somebody mentioned here, right? So being able to like release the whatever pent up energy is in there through kind of physical activity and conscious physical activity, right? Or being like, I'm going to go and do this to like release this energy, and so that we're not like thrown out of balance and taken off guard by it. I think a lot about like the tower card in the tarot, right? And the sort of tower being struck by lightning. And one of the ways that Alejandro Jodorowsky talks about it, right, is this sort of like crown is being like knocked off the tower as it's being struck by lightning. And Jodorowsky is like, okay, like there will be lightning with this card, right? And that lightning is either going to come from an external source, right? Or it'll come from an internal source. And we can think about like shaking up a bottle of champagne or a soda or something like that, right? And it's got all this energy in it. And it's like, okay, this energy has got to go someplace, right? And either we take it and we kind of like release it slowly so it doesn't explode, or it just like pops and blows up and then creates a mess everywhere. And so, it's up to you how you want to go about this, but I am of the mind of like, let me direct this energy consciously through, physical activity, dance, creativity, things that are helpful, instead of having this energy overtake me and then I get into a fight or smash something. Mars and Uranus tends to be accident prone, right? So that energy can come out through car accidents, through mistakes, right? And so we want to just like slow down and release steam wherever we can. Also watch out for don't do any extreme sports this weekend if you can help that, right? Sometimes we can't help these things if we're in extreme sports competitions, but like, watch it with the risk-taking behaviors, because this is a transit that is definitely accident prone, and you might want to take it slow for a couple days around this and give yourself space. Like, don't feel like you need to rush around. And again, like think about the ways that you can like let blow off steam in maybe conscious or like skillful ways, so that it doesn't result in accidents or fights or breaking things. Dig? Um, Cool. Let me just checking in with the chat. Okay, moving right along. Okay. Yeah, so the same day we get the sun in Pisces, who is sextiling Uranus, which is a communicative aspect. And I think that this is helping to kind of stabilize that kind of like frenetic Mars, like, oh, I got to do something, right? I got to smash something, right? And I think that the sun in the sextile, right, is helping to stimulate curiosity and creativity. And so maybe channeling that energy in creative ways, right? Which because it's only Monday, we can start thinking about, okay, what are creative ways that like I might want to engage with frustrated energy this week? Um, this also, I think that there's a piece around authority, right? Uranus does not deal well with authority, right? Uranus is like, I am my own authority and everybody like can back up off me. And so, with the Mars square, I think it wants to fight authority, right? And I think with the Sun sextile, it's like, maybe let's not fight, right? What is like a more creative way that we could sort of sidestep this? And so I think that again, that like solar energy is really helping us to think of creative ways of dealing with our frustrations, right? And Mars is the action and energy that allows us to do something with it, right? So I think that on one hand, we get all of this like pent up stuff, and then the sun is like, oh, wait, well, I could just do this, right? This is something that is actually going to bring me closer to the things that I'm trying to do in my life instead of just like blowing up, right? Um, and so I think that this is a really good time to also think about, sorry. Okay. Yeah, this is a good time to tune into your personal wants, right? And individual authenticity, because of all of this sort of pent up energy, right? Being like, okay, what is this? Where's this coming from? And like, what is in line with who I am, right? What is in line with, what is my authentic self? And I think this is a great time for tuning into that because this is a way of directing that energy to really support that authentic self. Um, and so like this might be a good time of some soul searching and tuning in to understand what it means to be ourselves, right? Um, and yeah, tuning into what is authentic to me is very different than reacting against exterior forces that we are perceiving as restricting us. Because when we're like, I am not that, like, you know, I won't do what you tell me, right? We are creating our sort of world through a negation of what authority or other people are telling us, right? And in that space, it can only be so big because it is defined by us saying no to what other people are telling us, which is very different than what it is like to say yes to ourselves, right? And saying yes to our authentic self. But in order to do that, we need to like know what that is and what feels authentic to us as independent from family, society, partnership, friends, right? From what history has told us, from what our gender identity has told us through the lens of society, right? To tune into that, takes a little space. And I think that this is a constantly ongoing and unfolding process because life is like an onion. You just keep peeling and crying and peeling and crying, right? Until ideally you have a blooming onion. But one way of thinking about, approaching this is tuning into this authentic sense of self is through the framework of IFS or internal family systems, which thinks about like the self as self energy, which is characterized by the eight C's, which is curiosity, compassion, clarity, connectedness, creativity, courage, confidence, and calm. Right. And so in IFS, it's like when something arises, we're like, is this the part of me that is curious and compassionate? Does it have clarity? Does it have connectedness? If this is the part that's a hater, you're like, okay, maybe like, can you just step aside for a second and we'll like deal with it? We can like talk to you in a second. But tuning into the parts of the self that have these eight C's, that have this calm, confidence, courage, creativity, connectedness, clarity, compassion, and curiosity, right, is a good way of being like, okay, how can I support this? Or what is this? What does, this part of myself really want here? There's also the 5 Ps, which is patience, presence, persistence, perspective, and playfulness, right? So these are just ways of noticing, okay, like what's coming up right now. The part that's like, I want to smash stuff is probably not that like self part, right? That can be that Mars that we're like, okay, you're cool and you're really important. And thank you so much for helping out with Chiron the other day. And also, I hear that you want to smash stuff, right? But like, what is a creative way that we can smash things, right? Let's be curious about this. Let's have compassion to this part that really wants to smash stuff right now, right? But like, also, let's have some patience, right? And get a little perspective on the situation. So this is a way of like um thinking about tuning into the like the authentic self, the capital S self, I don't know, your true self, higher self. I don't know, I don't have good language on how to like name that, but it's something that we can consider. However you want to name what is the most authentically you part, right? And this is a framework for thinking about that. And I think during what is this, Saturday? Man, yeah, on Saturday during this weekend, I think it's a great time to spend a little time connecting in with them. Um, oh yeah, Gina Maria says, sounds like this is going to be a space for know thyself in order to make decisions for our highest goods. Well said, Gina Maria, and I hope that your interview went well. At the start of this, I had everybody cross their fingers for you. So I hope you got the job. And if you did, I hope it's the job that you want. Okay. So also, and we're kind of running out of time, so I'm going to try and wrap this up in a swift fashion. So also on Saturday, March the 9th, we have Mercury entering into Aries. So Mercury will be in Aries until May 15th. What? Yep, May 15th. It's a long time because on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, Mercury will station retrograde at 27 degrees and 13 arc minutes of Aries. And Mercury's retrograde will last all the way until April the 25th, when they station direct at 15 degrees and 58 arc minutes, which is really close to where the Chiron North Node conjunction was, by the by. So, oh yeah, Quinn, if you want to quit your job, do it on Saturday, right? If that feels authentic to you, I support you. Yeah, go ahead, quit your job, work for yourself, you know. Or if you need suggestions, talk to me. Okay, so yeah, and anyone else who quits their job, you can just tell them that your weekly Astro Wizard told you it was okay. Okay, let's see here. So along with this, and this is speaking to your point, Quinn, on Saturday, along with this kind of like Mars, I want to smash stuff energy, and the sun, well, let's find a like more creative way of doing this. We have Mercury moving into Aries that really wants to make their point, speak their mind, right? Say what they want to say and not worry about like how that affects other people. Mercury in Aries tends to just be like, this is what I think about this thing. Okay, I'm out, right? And just sort of like it drops that on everybody and they're like, oh, whoa. Mercury and Aries makes their point with a battle axe, right? They just, or a machete, they just go in and like hack it up, right? And not a lot of compassion with the Mercury and Aries. um but I think that they're also like using their voice as a way of claiming space, as a way of being like, I am here and my opinion matters, right? And so this might be a way that that kind of like Mars energy, Mars again is the ruler of Aries, that Mars energy comes out is through like saying things, right? And making demands or making our point or like proclaiming our thing, which is cool, except for I'm gonna put it to you like this, right? Mercury is gonna go into retrograde in a couple weeks, right? And so the things that we are like shouting and proclaiming and saying and being like, this is what I think about you, right? We're probably gonna have to walk that back, right? We're that the stuff that like gets spouted out in a moment of passion, right? As we are trying to like make our point and like claim our space and say, like, you can't say that to me. This is what I think about you. 4 weeks from now, we're gonna be like, oh my, I'm so sorry, right? Let me make that up to you. As Mercury goes into retrograde and we have to rethink, redo, reconsider, recapitulate, right? All of the things that may have been spouted out in a moment of Aries passion. So just consider that. Um, and yeah, so we maybe like want to think twice, speak once if you can, you know. And again, the reason that I'm like bringing all this out is not necessarily because you're going to act differently, but like when the inevitable happens, then we're like, oh, I know how to respond to this, right? When we get activated and we tell somebody to take a long walk off a short pier, right? We like sometimes we can't control that, and that's okay, but we can also remember, okay, like I'm probably going to have to make that better eventually because Mercury's coming back around again. Mercury's going in retrograde, and we're going to have to like, patch this up because I actually did want that job or need that reference, Quinn, or something like that. So when you're talking about like maybe I should quit my job on Saturday, do that, right? If that's what feels authentic to you, and do it in a very diplomatic way, right? Because I think what happens is in a couple of weeks, things are going to emerge. Some unseen things are going to emerge, right? Because again, with all this like Mercury and Pisces, there's all this like muddiness, and then we get into this like moment of clarity, and we're like, I know what's up, right? To hell with you. Take this job and shove it. And then as things unfold a little bit, it's like, oh, wait, maybe that's not exactly what I meant. Right. So I would just say, like, do it in a thought out diplomatic way. Right. And we can always write that one letter that says everything like hateful and vile that we just burn. Right. And never send. And then write the letter that is like, hey, I really appreciated working with you. You guys are great. You're a great team. I just see us going in different directions at this time, or, however you want to phrase that. So I just wanted to bring that in as well. And okay, which brings us to the big news of the week in the last 3 minutes of our report. Now we're going to take a couple minutes extra. I hope that I'm not keeping anybody from anything important. We're going to be talking about the new moon in Pisces, which is going down this Sunday, March the 10th at 20 degrees and 17 arc minutes of the sign of the fishes, Pisces. And this is occurring at, I believe, 2 a.m. Pacific time and 5 a.m. Eastern time. And one of the reasons that I put in the time, and I just taught a class about the moon and sort of moon timing, right, in spell work and how we're thinking about processes. As the moon is waning, we are letting go of things. We are shedding. We are releasing into the cosmic ocean of Pisces, right? As we get the absolute conjunction of the sun and moon, right? That is the like sort of 0 point, right? Where we get to rest in stillness. We can think about this as the complete exhalation of the breath, right? The Yeah, that space all the way out, right? When the out breath turns to the in breath. And as that out breath turns to the in breath, we can start thinking about this is what I'm building. This is the seed that I'm planting for this new cycle, right? This is the intention that I'm setting in the fertile ground of the universe, um, which then grows over the next lunar cycle. And so, this would be 2:01 a.m. Pacific time. And you don't need to be awake for this, right? And I think that these things happen on unconscious levels, and ideally we want to make them conscious when we're in a space to be able to do that. And I also want to put it out there, and when I was sort of learning magic and astrology, and maybe this is just me, but I was like, oh, I have to like set intentions at every new moon, right? I have to do all the things. And what I've learned is to like hold it with a looser grip, right? That we are part of a living, breathing cycle. And I guess the way that I conceptualize this is it's not like imposing our will on the universe, but it is working with the will of the universe and aligning our will with the will of nature, right? So that instead of trying to like cut across a wave that's happening, we are riding it, right? And I bring this in because it's like, okay, this is an opportunity to sort of like align ourselves with the wave that's happening. And what would that look like for you? And what are the things that, how are the ways that we want to align with this? And we sort of talked a lot about like authenticity and creativity this week, right? And tuning into the imagination, right? And I may say this on every single episode of the show that I do, but one of my favorite quotes comes from Carolyn Casey, which is imagination lays the tracks for the reality train, right? And I think that this is like such a Pisces vibe, right? As we are tuned into like sort of the big mind, right? And how do we like align our imagination with the big mind, right? And allow that imagination to wander and allow us to dream and to think big and to envision what it would look like. What it would look like to be living in my ideal reality, what it would look like to be my ideal future self, right? What is the vision for the future that I want to sort of plant in this world, right? And whether this is like peace in Gaza, or whether this is like a flourishing two-state solution, or whether this is, having a better job, or whether this is, peace on earth, right? And Pisces is like, there's nothing too big, right? You can dream it. And I think that, there are parts that come in and they're like, that's not possible, or you can't say that, or, oh, I can't believe that you would even like believe that like that would ever happen. And we can just like let that part go, right? We can let that part sit over there, right? And allow ourselves to sort of dream into what is the vision that we want to sort of be creating and generating, right? Um, and so one of the things that I just want to bring in the last couple minutes of this is the sun and moon in Pisces are sextile Uranus in Taurus during this new moon, right? Um, and before I get into that, we have in the sort of new moon chart, we have the sun and moon who are conjunct at 20 degrees of Pisces, and then we have Saturn on one side and Neptune on the other. Right. And last week, me and Jeff were sort of talking a little bit about Saturn and Neptune. And thank you, Jeff, for bringing that in. Cosmic Cousins, who I hope will be an advisor on AstroStar one of these days. Um, but we have kind of Saturn, which is the reality principle, right? Which is limitations, which is structure, which is like, if you want something, like, what are you going to do to make it real, right? And then Neptune, who's like, everything is everything. It's all possible. It's all just a dream that we're living out of, right? And like, the sun and the moon, which is our kind of like ego identity and our like emotional body, right? Are kind of on either side of those things, right? Or those principles are on either side of like these like really core principles of the self, right? During this new moon. And so on one hand, it's like, things have got to be structured. You've got to do it in like a way that like things are actually going to happen in like reality principle. And on the other hand, it is the like just dream it, right? If you build it, they will come, right? Which I think is the syncretization of both of them and being able to hold both things, right? If we are able to do the work to make the dream a reality, like it will be a reality, right? But we also have to think about what is that authentic part of ourselves really asking for? And what is it like to sort of tune into that and the part of ourselves that exists beyond time and space, that is eternal, that is forever, that is sort of living in the sea of cosmic consciousness, right? How do we like give that part a little space, that imaginal space, right? And so that we can allow that dream to move through us and then put in the work to make that a reality. And so during this new moon, we have the sun and moon in Pisces sextiling Uranus and Taurus. And so this brings up questions again of authenticity, of freedom, right? And to think about like what freedom actually is, right? Because freedom requires a lot of responsibility. Agency requires a lot of responsibility. Authority requires a lot of responsibility. And if we are free, then we are our own authorities. But if we are our own authorities, we have to be responsible for our actions, for ourselves, and the ways that our actions impact other people and other systems, right? And the entire planet. Right. Um, yeah, and so Pisces is connected to the like deep mind and the transpersonal consciousness. And this is the fertile soil that the intention of the new moon is being laid in. Um, and so yeah, one of the things that we can think about as we are doing this and as we are moving into this new moon is like, what is it like to awaken our sense of identity, our personal uh, kind of liberated, free self, right? How do we tune into that, and how do we set our intentions and start moving in a way that is really kind of influenced by that authentic self? Right. And as we are laying this seed of intention in this fertile soil, I think Uranus comes in and sort of electrifies it, right? In this like Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein or Poor Things type of way, like bringing this like jolt of life into this thing, which can be really exciting and also can be overwhelming if we are not conscious of what we are doing, right? And yeah, and I think that there's this interesting relationship between Pisces, right, which is the surrender into the collective unconscious, and the sense of authenticity and individuality that comes from that Uranus energy of liberation, right? And in a sort of in one sense, it is like, okay, like the idea is to liberate the self, right? But like no self can be liberated until all sentient beings are free. And I think this is the relationship of Uranus sextile the sun and moon to the sun and moon being in Pisces, right? Is the process of liberation, and how, like, what is it like to liberate the self, and the realization that the self will never be truly liberated until everything, down to the smallest flea, right, down to the smallest like amoeba lost in the ocean, is free, right, is liberated. And so this is like also an opportunity on like a bigger, maybe transpersonal, and dare I say a Buddhist sense, is to think about like, what would it look like if all sentient beings are free, and like what are the actions that we can engage in that help to like move that process along. And I love this, right? I love the kind of futility of this exercise, yet I love the dedication to it, right? That to come back again and again and again and again and again until all sentient beings are free, knowing like, whoo, that's a tall order. There's a lot of stuff out there, but you know what? Send me back in, coach. Let's do it, right? And I think I bring this in because like in our intentions, in what we are setting as we are setting out this new cycle, and as just as we are showing up in our life, what is it like to tune into our authentic self and also be like, how does me doing this help all sentient beings to be free, right? How can my like connection with my authentic self and me showing up in the best way that I can on this day and on this day on this day, like help pave the way for other things to find liberation? And yeah, I think yes, the doing is the beginning of the freeing. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Um, Oh yeah, and Gina Maria says it's not futile to dig deeper to make the soil richer. Yes. And I was going to call it quits there, but since you said that, Gina Maria, we got one more aspect that's going on during this new moon, which is Mercury in Aries, sextile Pluto and Aquarius, right? Which is like really wanting to get to the depths of things, right? Really wanting to dig deep. And Mercury and Pluto, Mercury and Hades have like a special relationship. uh Mercury is the messenger, the psychopomp, and they're the only Olympian who can move between the realms of the gods, right? The higher consciousness, the Olympian realm, the middle world, which would be us, right, or our cognitive processes, and the underworld, which I think is the unconscious and the somatic processes, right? And so during this new moon, there's also an opportunity to pass messages between the unconscious, right, from the unconscious, and allowing space for what is unconscious to emerge, right, and to come up into our cognitive understanding, and also for us to communicate with our unconscious mind. And I think that the unconscious communicates through symbol and ritual. And so this may be a good time, if you have an intention or an idea that you would like to communicate to the underworld, to the unconscious, to the somatic realms, to think about a ritual, right? Think about an action, think about a symbol that you would like to, I don't know, draw or dance or, write, uh, write in chalk, right, on the ground, write in cornmeal and let the wind blow away, write in a letter and, rip up, throw in a message in a bottle. I don't know. Like you get to write your own ritual and perform it in the way that you want. But I think this is a great way of communicating with the underworld, the realms of Pluto, right? And also when we send a message, right, to take the space to listen, right, to listen to the answer. And with that, yeah, I think this is your week in space, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate getting to do this each and every week. Yes, Quinn says psycho magic time. Exactly. Thank you, Quinn. And yeah, what would some psycho magic around like job be? Right. To think about if like a what is it like to end one job, right, and to create that space and to do that in a really skillful way, and then to create a psycho magic about the next job, the better job, the perfect job, the ideal job. And I think one of the things that happens, and I know this happens to me, and I think this is one of the big pieces around this new moon, is the I'll be like, oh, I want this thing. And then I'm like, oh, I could never. That's not right. I like kind of shame myself for wanting things. And to allow ourselves to rest in the wanting, I think is important, right? And to not like make ourselves small, to allow ourselves to be big, to allow ourselves to want big things. Because again, I think that being able to tune into our wants and desires and to sort of tune into our authentic nature, right? And what feels really alive for us helps other people to see that as well, right? And gives other people permission to want big things for themselves, right? So I just wanted to toss that out there. So, um, nice. Yeah, I'm glad that you were able to make it, Gina Maria. And yeah, I hope that you said something about your uh okay. So yeah, you got to wait a month to find out about your job, but I hope that works out great. And Quinn, I hope that you get the job of your dreams or get to take the vacation of your dreams, or both. Why not? We can have it all, right? Yeah, that is your week in space, my friends. I'm available for astrology readings through the AstroStar app, and you can find that on wherever you get your apps at. That is AstroStar Live. I think I have a link in my bio for that. If I put this on YouTube, then I will add that into the show notes. And if you're already on AstroStar, thanks for tuning in. And I just want to let everybody out there know that AstroStar is a great astrology app. It is an excellent place to connect with really spot on astrologers who are doing excellent work, including Michael Bartlett, Cameron Allen, Samuel Reynolds, and many, many others, Tara Tall, a bunch of people who are like, that I'm like, whoa, y'all are like real astrologers, right? When I like got into this, I was like, whoa, like y'all are like really good at what you do. And I'm honored to get to sort of share an app with them, be on the same platform as them. But it is a place like I'm doing this. There are other people who are dropping knowledge and doing talks and teaching classes and giving readings. So if you're interested in learning more about astrology or getting down with a pretty vibrant astrological community, I highly recommend checking out the AstroStar Live app. I have a link in my stories on Instagram for that. I believe there's a link in my bio with a code that you can put in to follow me, which is cool. I don't know. It's a great place. Check it out. It's a free download, and it's a excellent way to learn more about astrology and get involved in an astrological community. And I do readings through that app, and I believe my only day is Sunday because life is hectic and busy, but I do what I can because I love giving readings. Oh, thank you, Gina Maria. Um, yeah, and so in Yeah, I got a couple more minutes, so I'll just open it up for questions if people have things that they're curious about or anything that they want to say. And if not, I will let you go on your way. And I think I'll end this right here.